Hi everyone, over to you, Clemency.
Thanks, Ed. Welcome back again, everybody. Just a quick introduction now for our panel, which will be moderated by Rahel and Bailie of ICP. This panel is called Digital Transformation: How to Manage the Level of Content in Your DAM to Ensure Agility, Creativity and Relevance to the Business Enterprise. Thank you, Rahel, over to you.
Thank you, Clemency. Well, I want to introduce our two panelists, and the first one is Nathalie de Lemos, who's head of product for Nestlé digital content, and Tom Marsh, who's the team lead for creative operations at Kitchen Stories. So welcome both of my panelists. Tom, am I seeing you? Yes, you're there. Okay. We are going to, for the next almost an hour, talk about how to manage the level of content in your DAM. And I'm particularly aware of this because we have this situation where maybe the DAM industry thinks everything should go in the DAM, and then you have people that come from the CMS side and they think everything should go in the CMS, and it really isn't. I mean, those are two extremes on the end of a continuum. And so we've got someone from a very large company and someone from a smaller company, and I would hope that we have a good representation of all of the different ways that we can slice and dice this topic. So Nathalie, why don't you go first to tell us a little bit about yourself and the kind of content you're responsible for, and where you keep it, how you work with it.
Yes, thank you, Rahel. So hi everyone, Nathalie. I'm leading the digital content and product information at Nestlé the past 5 years on the IT side. So it's under marketing and sales and e-business. And the solutions that are under my scope are the DAM, of course, but then we also have the workflows, so packaging and non-packaging, which is all marketing workflows, linked then into the publication piece. So currently our DAM is used by 20,000 users, and with more than 1 million of assets. So you can imagine that our journey was quite intense the past years. And so I hope that I will be able to bring value on the questions and for the attendees.
Great. And Tom, maybe you can introduce yourself as well, those same questions.
Yeah, gladly. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so I'm from the UK originally, sitting in Berlin at the moment. I've been working kind of in the creative industries and with creative teams for the last 15 years. But current role is the creative ops lead at Kitchen Stories, which I guess no prizes for guessing which is the larger company in this round. But basically, we're a cross-media cooking platform, video-based, and we're available as an app and website. And our mission is kind of to empower people to cook a fresh meal every day, just to give some context. And yeah, so a lot of my work is kind of focused on finding these sustainable and scalable solutions for a company that's very much still growing, although we are, certainly established. But because of, I guess, the nature of this, I'm really sitting at a kind of junction of a lot of different teams, this really cross-functional way of working, which means that I spend a lot of my day kind of listening to stakeholder needs and pain points and trying to figure out how we can scale this and what the best solutions are based on where we're at and also where we would like to be. So yeah, I think this is going to be a really interesting discussion, but kind of in my scope, obviously, is the whole creative asset life cycle, but also then trying to break down the silos between the different departments and make sure that everyone has access to everything that they need, and that we don't fall into the trap of letting lack of processes and lack of asset management get in the way of moving forward.
I like that perspective. And for myself, I'm coming actually from the text-based content side of the world, although I have done DAM and PIM and other projects, for companies large and small. So, but my sweet spot is around text-based content and operationalizing text-based content. So it's interesting that we're all talking about food and recipes and the assets that go with recipes, and the marketing of the recipes and so on. And I shouldn't say it's just recipes, it's food, but I often use recipes as an example of like the perfect example to show why you need structure around your content, like semantically structured content and metadata and so on, to be able to optimize your text assets, and along with that, your digital assets. So I think we've got a good representation here across the industry, from large, small, and then someone, the outsider who's looking in and saying, yes, and I want to learn more about that from our two experts. So what I would like to get is a sense of how you manage your content in your DAM. And so when we're talking content, and I've had this conversation where, I said, content, and they said, you mean images? And I'm like, no, text-based. And they go, metadata? And I think, no, I'm talking about, as a PDF, but as, content entities that can be moved around. So when you're talking content, if you could just elaborate on the kind of content, and then how are you managing it? Like, are you managing it in a single DAM, in kind of a federated model? How does that go? And tell us just how you're approaching the situation, because I know one of you is in a kind of a migration process or a pre-migration process. So I don't want to kind of burst anyone's bubble if you don't want to talk about it. So I'm just going to be very vague on that point. So who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Yes.
So on our side, when one of the things that we have to share is that, so we went from 40 legacies into one.
Wow.
So the enormous work that we've been doing the past 3 years was enormous. And one of the key things that has been helping us to do that is to have a key partnership with the different stakeholders and to elaborate a process. Because at the end, the reality that Nestlé Spain or Nestlé US or Nestlé France can have, majority of them have the same issues. So it's elaborate a standard process that can be applicable for the whole corporation, and when we and put a structure, a common structure into the DAM. So on our side, we have different portals that belongs to the different categories, and everyone can then access. The main point of a DAM at the end is to have a structured content. Then you have control your IP rights, and it's properly organized with a proper taxonomy, etc. And it has to be a way that others can reuse that asset, because at the end, the asset that has been is being done by France can also be reused in a LATAM market. And basically here is the key point on our side, because it's putting a structure that then will bring our KPIs, which is cost efficiency, reduce the time to market, avoid the different real loops when you are creating this content. So it's elaborating who are the key partners along this journey, coming up with one strong objective, and then put aside that structure that comes from the business, and then putting it into the solutions. So at the end, you cannot have all in, no? So you will have to go step by step. Not all the vendors are capable to do so. So it's really important to, when you will be doing the RFP, to really bring on board users, main stakeholders, agencies. So who are the users of the DAM? Who is taking benefit of the asset well structured into the DAM? And how then through a good DAM, you can then integrate with the different pieces of the workflows and ending in the syndication, right? So those are the learnings that has to be done at the beginning, right? To what is our common objectives? What are the issues that we are trying to solve? on the different counterparts, because each of the streams will have a different needs, but that from this to elaborate a plan and then look for into the industry, which are the different vendors that can fit in this piece, right? And don't be afraid to think big, because even if we are a company like Nestlé, which are very big, or another one, or middle size, the dam is going to evolve, right? So what you're going to set up the first year, next year, it could be double or triple or even 5 times bigger, because when we started to where we are today, it came like this, you know? So don't be afraid of thinking big, because otherwise you will have performance issues years after. Then you will increase the number of users, you will increase the number of integrations, because then you would like to bring in new technologies, right? So if you do a proper architecture to think for future, even if it's really, really big, put it in. So then you will figure out how you're going to put there, and really partner IT with the business. And always keep in mind that you need to have your users in the journey. So one of the things that we've been doing also through these years is to a monthly sounding board. So it's something that I really recommend, that if you are hundreds of views, at the end you will be able to share the progress of the journey, but also you have this feedback from the users. No? So when you're bringing in new functionalities, or you're taking those requests, so then you can see if it's something that is shared, it's a challenge that others can have or not. So it's having this sounding board on a monthly base. It's critical, and then also it will help you to have a stronger community. So I think that the best way on that sense is to really listen to the users, listen to the business, and try at the end to have all these stakeholders all together to build a good solution.
I love that idea of the sounding board, because we often leave that out of governance. You know, we do the racy ones at the beginning, and then it's done. And it's not. It's really that someone earlier in a session said change management is never done. So that sounding board is brilliant. I'm going to go back to something that you said right at the very beginning, which is we went from 40 to 1. And I love that approach, that you have one, but then you kind of segment by, these portals so that people can go in and see different things and so on. I see too many times where people are looking at kind of like, oh, we're special, so we need a different piece of technology. And then they end up operating in a silo, and then everyone is special and everyone wants their own silo. So I really applaud you for getting that all into one. Okay, and now I'm going to go over to Tom and ask you the same question. So what content are you managing, and how are you managing it? Do you have many dams, one dam? Is it small, large? Are you thinking big, like Nathalie says, and kind of, expanding for trying to future-proof?
All of what you just said, certainly the thinking big and, expanding. So yeah, we basically have a single solution at the moment, but as I said, kind of, there's a difference in scale, isn't there, between the two speakers in this round, and so I think we're at a different stage in terms of what the sort of things that we're trying to cover are, and the problems that we're trying to solve. But essentially, at the end of the day, I think it's the same stuff. We want to get time to market down as well with anything that we're doing, and something that kind of came to me was this idea of agility, that maybe you might think that a smaller organization would be better at, but it's not necessarily the case, because maybe the thought has not been put into, okay, how can we make this more sustainable, these processes, and scale this? So then you end up struggling with these sort of single solutions, which you also talked about, Nathalie, someone having a tailor-made solution for a particular problem, which then maybe doesn't connect with something else and wasn't really thought about in a kind of long-term way. And obviously what ends up happening is these kind of silos keep getting reinforced, and I think that's something that we're kind of constantly trying to battle against, I would say.
Okay, so I'm going to pose kind of the next question, because the premise of this is how much content belongs in the dam and how much doesn't. And someone asked 40 legacy systems into one at Nestlé. Did I hear that correctly? And yes, you did hear that correctly. 40 legacy systems. Yes. So and I'll tell you that there have been other companies that I've worked with who have way more than 40. So 40 isn't, outrageous. It is very ambitious, but it's not outrageous. So now the most obvious content that would go into a dam would be the metadata on your images. So I'm going to ask, where does your metadata live? Does it live in a taxonomy and then get ingested? Does it live in the dam? Does the dam have its own kind of taxonomy system? What about alt text? Like, does alt text live in the dam, or does the alt text live somewhere else because you need to kind of round trip it with your translation management system or whatever? So maybe you can talk a little bit about metadata on images as like the first layer of content that may or may not go into a dam.
Yeah, so I mean, for us, the metadata lives in the dam with the images.
Okay.
And yeah, alt text is doing the round trip, as you said.
And you're doing it from the dam to the translation management and back.
Exactly.
Okay.
Same for us.
Same for us. Great. Now, what about when you have things like captions and extended captions? And that might not apply to you, so don't don't panic if you think, well, what is she talking about? So let's call them short descriptions. In a CMS, you might call it a short description. So, here's a picture of a cake, and this tasty cake is also paleo and keto friendly. You should try making this. So it's like a paragraph as opposed to a piece of metadata. Would that live in your dam along with the image, or would that be elsewhere, like in a CMS, or maybe just added by a marketing person or an information person, a product writer, UX writer later on?
So sorry, Nathalie, again, but on our side, I guess it's currently living on the CMS side of things.
Okay.
But I mean, that's I think a good example of the kind of thing that we're looking at. What kind of integration does the DAM solution offer with the CMS solution that we have, and questioning, is it definitely the best way to be doing things, thinking about scaling and thinking about a wider distribution and better use of the assets that we have, because I think the idea of like reusing and making sure all of the information and all these subtexts and alt text are available and still connected to the assets is really important.
On our side, on our side, it's not into the dam. The dam is not for that per se. And with the idea of the reuse, at the end, it has to be fit for the others, right? So at the end, the transcription that you will put from one market, it will be different from another one, right? So that's why it's that would be outside. That here is that we make it simple. The more complexity that you will add it, then it will force you into other more complexity. And when you are at our scale, that so many have different needs and brands are so different, right? And categories, and that's why is that you need to have to find a common ground as a standard, and then from there you will connect and integrate with the other solutions. And the other thing that I wanted to say that I forgot on my previous piece is that when you will, build your dam or prepare a dam, try to avoid customizations, because the moment that you open that Pandora box, it's fit for complexity, it's fit for performance issues, it's fit for long nights for your IT teams and into the next upgrades. So, we have in the industry very powerful vendors, and stick to the out of the box, because the moment that you will customize, then in the upcoming years is going to be very, very, very difficult to maintain.
Okay, so in the case where you have a particular business reason to customize, do you reverse engineer it so that the business reason fits the technology, or how do you reconcile that?
So we had a different journey because at the end we went from a lot of customizations, and with time what we try to do is that to have this out of the box piece, or bring on board the partner to add that functionality into their core product. So at the end, the fact that you can ally with your peers from the industries when you can influence into the product evolution of the vendor. So having a close partnership with the innovation department of the vendor, it's really important also, because then your needs, you're making sure that they are not going to break the upcoming years. So
right,
that's
right.
But I mean, you can have specifics for sure, but then, you know, into the solution, you have different pieces, because you have a playground that is determined by the vendor, but you have what is configurations that then you can adapt to your business, and then you have pure customization that they will do just for you, and that one is the one who then is risky to maintain. Right.
Yeah, I definitely understand about the customizations. I think that would work for a company the size of Nestlé, and especially if Nestlé has a, you know, if you have a forum of DAM users where you collaborate and so on, and you consult each other. I don't know about with kitchen stories, but you know, because you're using a smaller DAM probably than what Nestlé is using, Tom, maybe for you, you know, you have that same ability to work with a vendor, but a smaller vendor. I don't know, what's your take on that?
Sure. I mean, I think the point of the work that you put in at the RFP stage and really getting to really understand exactly what it is that you need, because there are a lot of solutions out there, and with enough searching, you can usually find enough out-of-the-box solutions to do what you need to do. And I 100% second this kind of approach of not customizing things. And the more you dive under the hood, also the more complicated it gets to onboard other people into processes, and if something goes wrong, then you know, you're in a world of pain, I would say. But I think, yeah, this kind of really understanding exactly what the solution should look like, how you're going to measure whether it's doing what you need it to do, is the time that you need to invest as an ops manager. I think someone who's part of that decision making, getting everyone on board, because I think I'm quite a fan of also doing as little as possible with the maximum amount of outcomes. So I think you don't continue to put effort into customized solutions and all this kind of stuff. Rather put the time in at the beginning to find the thing that's going to do the job, and then you don't need to worry about maintaining it or something like that, you know. Right.
Yeah. From the point of view that I come at it at, where you know, you start with the recipe, you say this is what people are looking for, and the image brings the recipe to life. So it's almost like the primary content is the text-based content, like how do I make this, and the images, you know, what should it look like at the end, and what should it look like at different stages during the recipe creation. So we have a method of kind of the authoring method of putting highly structured content into kind of an XML schema, and then attaching, you know, the calling the images from the DAM that will be attached at delivery time. So if you have, I sometimes use the cookie recipe to say you have cookies and it has nuts in it. So you have everything tagged as the ingredients for cookies, but then for the nuts, you tag it as an allergen. And then if you want to publish it on your free from portal, or site where you show it without there, then it will remove the allergens and put something else in, so instead of nuts, you would have raisins, and then it would publish that version of the same recipe to the other site. And then you get into this at the image end. So are you finding ways to optimize your images so that you don't have to have so many images, or is it really kind of a matter of tagging up the images, like this is the cookies with nuts, this is the cookies without nuts, this is the cookies without nuts or raisins, and then you attach them at the same time? So is that, first of all, is what I said making any sense to you?
I think so. I could say that it would be, this is the cookies with nuts.
Right. But so like if you needed to have 3 variants of that recipe, would you copy and paste and take out the nuts and substitute raisins, or would you just have one recipe? Because it all comes down to maintenance, right? Do you want to maintain 1 or 3 or 1 or 24 in many cases once you start with translation? So do you want to maintain one where you you tag nuts with kind of your regular recipe, raisins with your free from recipe, and then maybe there's another one that's that's like the vegan version where you don't have butter or milk in it, and so you can tag it all up, but it's all in one place. And then what do you do to attach the images with it? So I threw this in as a curveball, so maybe that's unfair of me to be asking this, because you'd probably have to go to someone on your team and go, what did we do in that situation?
I mean, I guess in general for us, in terms of this kind of thing, it would be a question of, first of all, quality control. And so we would be looking at creating new assets, obviously, for new and also there's a lot of the whole process of recipe testing, and this kind of automation is not really something that we would have in place.
Oh, okay. So it's it really is kind of attaching assets to a set of content, and you're sure that that asset goes with that content, and then it's automated.
Exactly. I mean, there are certain things. So for example, like in a recipe, you have, let's say we have the cookie recipe. Maybe there's a step where flour is needed, and you want to see flour being put on a worktop or something. Obviously, that's an asset which could be used in multiple recipes, and so this is the idea of tagging and being able to assign that then out to different things. Obviously, comes into play. But obviously the lead asset, the foodie community is they're like hawks, and they will see if there's any discrepancies.
Got it. So in a case where okay, I'm trying to formulate my question here. So now you've got this kind of automation of publishing, so you don't really have to worry about that. If you need make an update, you can publish, and it will go where it needs to go. So right now, or in the past, let me say in the past, because it's not right now. Right now, we're starting to use machine learning and AI and all these things to detect things. So how much of that are you starting to use? Because you mentioned quality control, which we know is really important. And now you've mentioned the foodie community, who's very, who watches like a hawk. So you need to have a certain amount of clarity. But how do you incorporate some of these other automation features into your business? I'm not going to say the DAM, because your DAM is integrated with your CMS and your taxonomy management system and probably a bunch of other things. So where do you see AI coming in, and how far do you take it?
Wow. Okay. This is a very current topic, something I'm particularly interested about, especially for our field. I think there's, yeah, worlds are going to be opened up. Nathalie, do you have something specific to say about this? I would gather my thoughts maybe for a second.
You know, AI is that the holy grail for everyone. And I think that not only customers, but also vendors are in the journey to figure out how to put this in place. So there's a different initiatives that we find along the way. And I know that it's on all the innovation plans of the biggest vendors who are looking into that and working to that. They are on those discovery phase. So we, on our side, we tested it, not yet conclusive, but it's definitely something that we are looking at, because at the end, the more you can introduce the AI into the solution, I mean, the better manual work is going to be reduced, right? And then all these manual activities that you can have from the librarians is then ease, right? So on our side is that because we are so big, at the end you have to define so much to then have the machine who will understand. And the more, I mean, what you define, and it's a process that is going to grow on the journey. So you have to really work this out. So as I said, it's a holy grail, and we are working with different partners to see how this become a game changer for us.
Well, I don't think we're there yet. I think we can all agree that we're not there yet.
Yeah, no, that's a holy grail for everyone. Everyone is looking at it, and it's like, if you're into AI, you are so cool. But the thing is, you know,
if I had a dollar or a pound or a euro for every time somebody said, "We will just do this," and I'm thinking, right, I would be rich.
Exactly. So, but it's clear, and everyone is aligned on that in terms of technology and also in terms of vendors, is that it's a need. There's investment, there's budget allocated to that to investigate, and this will come soon. But it's really, from my perspective, I believe that it's really on the discovery for a lot.
Interesting.
Maybe just to add, like, in terms of like looking for solutions and even because obviously there's a lot to come from AI, but in terms of what a DAM, I feel like in terms of what a DAM can do to support you in work, and we were talking about this idea of agility, and like maybe for a company like us jumping on trends and being able to quickly find a relevant image. I think there's already solutions out of the box that really speed up this process of finding, you know, matching assets to existing assets, just by also through kind of the.
But you know about that, I mean, it's not because you are adding, imagine an AI technology, that you will find your assets easier if at the beginning you tag them in a completely siloed way. And tech is not going to ease your life if your homework has not been done at the beginning. So having a good taxonomy and a good tags approach that is aligned, then you will be able to add tech, but it's not tech that is going to substitute something that has been not done at the beginning to ease the search.
Right.
No, that's such a good point. Yeah, and yeah, I was going to add to that, but it's a completely outside the scope, so I'm going to hold on to that thought. What I do want to do is, we've got a couple of questions here, and I'm going to ask them now, and then one or both of you can answer this, and then we can, you know, continue our discussion. But I don't want to leave this so late that we start rushing through the questions. So Luke asked, are either of the panelists handling video assets in their DAM? And do they serve videos from the DAM or integrate with a platform such as YouTube or Vimeo? What are some of the challenges? I think it's a good question. Do you have another, like a MAM, a media asset management system, or do you store them in a DAM, or are you not using video at all?
So yeah, we certainly have video, and we are using Vimeo.
Okay.
And it kind of runs all through our CMS. But that's,
okay.
yeah.
So through the CMS. But the videos are stored in Vimeo, or they're stored in the DAM and integrated with Vimeo?
Currently on Vimeo.
They're on Vimeo. Okay. And Nathalie, what about you?
So on our side, we do have some videos, but we are definitely looking into integrating with the media delivery platform.
Okay. And
you know, the
are
fact
there
that
any?
the videos means big size.
Right.
So then it's what you want to prefer, right? Because at the end, when you will be uploading an ad, it gets into the complexity of from where you are uploading, and it's that's why what we're looking at is to really having that platform really focus on that piece, who are the experts, and then have this linear integration with the DAM.
So my the challenges that immediately come to mind for me are what happens with captions or transcripts on DAMs, on videos, where are they stored? What about all the translations or the localization for markets? What happens with those?
So, I mean, I can speak for us. I think we're just at a different stage in terms of scale, and we're not servicing, you know, these localized markets like that. It would really be a one-to-one kind of asset situation as in terms of yeah, translations or, you know, bubbles coming onto the video.
Okay. Okay. I hope that answers Luke's question. And Lisa asks, knowing that different tools and platforms have such different metrics and integration capabilities, how do you track those holistic KPIs around reuse and cost savings? That's a can of worms, right?
So analytics is the other piece of the holy grail, right? You have AI and you have analytics and data. So to be able to capture those KPIs of reuse, so it's been a long journey also on our side. So that the DAM that we currently have doesn't have good analytics solution, so we integrated with the Power BI. For that, at the end, we find a solution with the vendor in terms of how to track the asset. But it's been good enough for the moment. But on the next generation of the DAM that we are going to implement, it's really something that we are going to add as out-of-the-box solution that is part of the vendor. But from now, a good Power BI, it's already a good piece, but there's still manual work.
No, fair enough. It's just like change management never ends. Neither does the improvement of the functioning, the operationalizing of the system. Tom, what's your take?
I mean, so I guess the solution, I would second that, actually, that the solution that we have, analytics, is somewhat of a problem, or it's certainly not where we would like it to be, and currently something that's a topic for us and something that we're looking into, because obviously that's a big part of this. How do we measure things? How do we know if what we're doing is what it should be doing, you know? This RFP kind of stage, the analytics capabilities is a big one for me.
I think that analytics is particularly, I don't want to say problematic, but let's use the word problematic, because sometimes the things you want to measure can't necessarily be done quantitatively. You can't just throw an analytics package at it and then say, like, how many people really like this, you know? Or how many people, you know, did X, Y, Z with it, which is what you really want to measure. So you kind of go to the, well, you know, how many people click the like button, because that's as close as you can get at the moment. Okay, well, we are coming up to, we've got another probably 5 minutes to go. So is there anything you would like to say in closing about how we manage content in a DAM and, you know, particularly around scale, because I think a lot of what we're doing is around, you know, future-proofing scale. And I know that, Nathalie, you addressed it a bit in your comments about thinking big. But I'd like to hear from both of you what your kind of, if you want the audience to take away 1 or 2 points, what would they be?
I would say on my side is that for those who are on the RFP journey, or even on the journey of upscaling their current solution, I will really make the different stakeholders together. Because if we take the reuse, what finance will look like, it's not the same as what the CMO will look at, right?
Right.
Or the digital manager will look at, or the e-commerce manager will look at. So each of them have a different need. And those needs are the needs that you need to capture to decide where you want to go. Because this then will ease your journey. Because otherwise you will be like a chicken without a head and trying to go everywhere and trying to please everyone. And then you're going to break because solution is not fit enough to scale, and then even doesn't have the capabilities to go there. So it's really important that listen to the different stakeholders, align with the users. Users are super critical, and it's not because it's agile that it's for tomorrow. This will be my last sentence.
Okay, no, fair enough. And Tom?
Yeah, I think for me, future-proofing is the kind of like tagline, and the idea of getting all the stakeholders together at the beginning, because I think if you don't, you'll be confronted with it at some point down the line. So either you do it before you make a decision, or you'll have to kind of deal with it when you've already made a choice. And yeah, in terms of scaling, I think so. Speaking from a smaller company with different issues, it's not a case of, okay, how do we scale this up, take over, some new market, but it's more about how do we scale this up within the organization also, and utilize what we've already got. Because just because you think it's small, things are working quickly, people can just, maybe you can just walk across the office and talk to somebody, that doesn't mean that it's the fastest and most efficient way of doing things. And I think there's solutions out there that really can tie these parts of the company together and scale it within the scale that it's already at, if you know what I mean.
And I will add also on that sense is that if you are at the final piece of the RFP and you have this hesitation between two, don't be afraid of doing a prototype. On our side, it helps a lot because it's way different to see a commercial demo than then to see it with your own assets, with your own process. And if you try it during a few months in a prototype with key stakeholders, key users, then you have a live experience and you can see if it's fit for business. So we've done that, and honestly, it's really, really helping to make the decision.
No, I'm all about the proof of concept, so yes. Okay, well, we've got less than a minute left, so I'm going to thank my panelists very much. It's been lovely chatting with you, and I'm liking the different perspectives. I don't think we came to fisticuffs anywhere, but we did kind of cover the range of the industry. So thank you very much. And I want to turn it over to Clemency because I know that she has a couple of announcements to make.
Thank you so much for moderating that very interesting panel, Rahel, and thanks Nathalie and Tom. I did find that absolutely fascinating. Yes, just to let everybody know, we've got coming up ensuring governance of digital assets for long-term access at LSE, the London School of Economics. So I'm sure you'll all look forward to joining us for our final session this afternoon, coming up in just one moment. Thank you, everybody.